Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Renegade Immortal episode number 107 based on novel. So let's start. Suzaku said, as he stared at the war chariot, celestial treasure. Although it is a low-quality celestial treasure, it's one of the most powerful low-quality celestial treasures, extremely close to mid-quality. Little brat, how do you have so much good stuff in your hands? If this spirit beast was a bit stronger, it might be able to raise it to a mid-quality celestial treasure. Low quality, Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He had 3 war chariots and this one was the smallest. The other 2 were both stronger, especially the last one. I have seen some ancient records about celestial treasures that use beast spirits. These can only be produced in the celestial realm, and after the celestial realm collapsed, these treasures almost went extinct. Unfortunately, although this is a low-quality celestial treasure, it requires a special technique to use like mid-quality celestial treasures do. To use it by force can't unleash its full power. What a pity. Suzaku let out a sigh. He truly admired Wang Lin right now. Although this brat's cultivation level wasn't as high as his, he sure did have quite a few treasures. Back when he was at this cultivation level, he didn't even have a single celestial treasure. Wang Lin looked at Suzaku, took out a piece of jade, and after recording some information on it, he threw it to Suzaku. Look at this. Suzaku caught the jade. When he checked it, his expression changed greatly. He looked at Wang Lin and said, "This is the technique to control this celestial treasure." That is correct. Using this technique allows you to control this god-slaying war chariot. I can even promise that this technique was left behind by the creator of this celestial treasure. Wang Lin nodded and looked at Suzaku with a smile that was not a smile. Suzaku put away the jade, let out a mischievous smile, and said, "Are you planning on giving me this god-slaying war chariot?" Wang Lin's expression remained the same as his hand formed a seal and pointed at the war chariot. A ray of black light flew from the chariot toward Wang Lin. "Why would I not gift it to you?" Wang Lin grabbed the beast trap and put it away. Suzaku was about to get revenge, and if he didn't have any treasures, Wang Lin would be a bit worried about him, so he decided to give Suzaku the war chariot. With Suzaku's new body and the war chariot, his quest for vengeance will go a lot smoother. Without the beast trap controlling it, the beast spirit let out a roar as it wrapped around the war chariot and quickly escaped. Suzaku laughed as he quickly chased after it. "Don't run. Come and play with this old man." The 4 armies of the Forsaken Immortal clan covered the skies of the north, east, west, and south parts of the Suzaku continent. In the eastern army, the 5th ancestor's eyes became cold. He waved his hand and softly said, "The 3-month wait is almost over. The day of the country of Suzaku's destruction is about to arrive." The moment he finished talking, he immediately started moving along with the huge black cloud behind him. His target was the center of the country of Suzaku, Mount Suzaku. At the same time, the other 3 Forsaken Immortal clan armies moved and started the last attack on the country of Suzaku. The 2 giant reincarnation trees on the Suzaku continent began to glow brightly and then 2 shining ancestral spirits walked out of them. These 2 ancestral spirits both had 10-leaf plants on their foreheads. The moment they appeared, they also rushed toward the country of Suzaku. On the country of Suzaku's side, the 4 defense lines were immediately forced to retreat. This was a large war, so the entire Suzaku continent was trembling as the sound of countless spells echoed across the land. Suzaku was currently standing on top of Mount Suzaku. His red robe was flowing in the wind along with his white hair. He stood there completely motionless. Chu Yuanfei had left. The ascendant ancestor from the Shattered Earth sect was hidden away in closed-door cultivation. Right now, the only ascendant cultivator in Suzaku was Suzaku. His figure revealed a hint of sadness and loneliness, but even more so, a hint of madness. "Cultivators of planet Suzaku, I am the current Suzaku. All of you no longer need to defend, let the Forsaken Immortal clan come. Qianfeng and Liu Mai, the 2 of you come here." Suzaku's divine message swept past the entire Suzaku continent. All of the cultivators that were defending let out sighs as they heard this and scattered as they ran for their lives. Without cultivators stopping them, the 4 Forsaken Immortal Clan's armies charged toward the center of Suzaku like violent storms. If one were to look from above, they would see the entire Suzaku continent being covered by 4 giant, black clouds that were quickly closing in on the center. Suzaku had his hands behind his back as he looked at the blue sky and said, "Everything will be decided." Shortly after, 2 figures flew in from the distance and stopped next to Suzaku. They were Qianfeng and Liu Mai. Qianfeng was wearing a black robe and his eyes gave off an evil aura. He silently stared at Suzaku with a gloomy expression. Liu Mai was still beautiful. She looked like a fairy with the white silk robe she was wearing. Right now her eyebrows were tightly knit, but she also remained silent. Suzaku's figure contained a trace of loneliness as he said, with a heavy tone, "The country of Suzaku can't fend off the Forsaken Immortal Clan. Qianfeng, Liu Mai, the 2 of you will go through a life or death trial today. Whether you 2 live or die will depend on your luck." At this moment, the black clouds closed in like raging tsunamis. The black cloud from the east only had one person, a middle-aged wearing a grey robe who looked like a scholar. With one step, he arrived 1,000 feet away from Suzaku. "Suzaku, I'm the Forsaken Immortal Clan's 5th ancestor." Another person walked out from the western black cloud. This person looked very young and his whole body was covered in tattoos, except his tattoos weren't black but golden. If Wang Lin was here, he would have recognized this person at a glance. This person slowly said, "The Forsaken Immortal Clan's junior master greets Suzaku." 3 people walked out from the southern black cloud. The 3 of them closed the gap in one step and stopped 1,000 feet away from Suzaku. 2 of them were in an illusionary state. They stared at Suzaku but didn't say a word. The other person was a woman. She was very beautiful and her eyes contained a hint of charm. She looked at Suzaku, let out a smile, and said, "This little girl is the Forsaken Immortal Clan's 3rd ancestor, and these 2 are my clan's ancestral spirits." From the northern black cloud, Suzaku walked out. He whispered toward Suzaku, "Senior apprentice brother." Suzaku suddenly turned around toward Suzaku and asked, "Should I call you Suzaku or 2nd ancestor?" Suzaku shook his head and said, "Forget about it. Senior apprentice brother can call me whatever you wish. All of you have come. The only 11-leaf shaman in the Forsaken Immortal Clan, 1st ancestor, you might as well come out too." Suzaku's eyes sparkled as he looked into the sky. A ray of 5-colored light gathered in the sky and a transparent figure slowly took form. The figure descended slowly and said, "Suzaku." This 1st ancestor looked extremely ordinary, yet with just one palm, he had scared Chu Yuanfei away. This power was similar to that of a late-stage ascendant cultivator and to some degree even surpassed it. Suzaku said, in a heavy tone, "Senior apprentice brother, our goal isn't to destroy planet Suzaku but to find a way for us to coexist. If you promise to hand over the cultivation planet Crystal, we can stop this war. We'll split the planet in half and never bother each other again." Suzaku let out a laugh that contained a hint of mockery and said, "If it wasn't for the fact that you all were afraid of me destroying the cultivation planet Crystal, you would have already attacked without wasting time on all this nonsense." Arrogant. The 5th ancestor's eyes lit up as he hit his forehead and a tattoo appeared. He pointed at the tattoo, he spat some blood on it, and shouted, "Seal." The tattoo immediately began to glow blood red and smashed toward Suzaku. The 5th ancestor knew that Suzaku was powerful. This was only meant to test the waters, so he didn't move closer. Suzaku's eyes became cold and he sneered. It seemed like he wasn't going to react, but then a golden glow appeared around him. Cracking sounds came from the tattoo as cracks appeared on it and then it shattered shortly after. At the same time, the 5th ancestor's expression changed and he quickly backed up. At this moment, a bloody dot appeared on his forehead and blood started to drip out of it. The 1st ancestor frowned and arrived before the 5th ancestor. He reached out and took out a golden needle. However, the moment the needle appeared, it disappeared without a trace. Suzaku's expression was gloomy as he moved. His speed was too fast, so fast that besides Yunqzi and the first ancestor, no one even saw what he had done. Suzaku seal, attack! Shuqzi's ancient voice came from the void. When he reappeared, he was already pointing down from the sky. The sky darkened as a large amount of the flames appeared around his body. The flame covered everything within 1,000 feet of him, and the ground began to show signs of being scorched. Aside from Yunqzi and the first ancestor, everyone quickly backed up to avoid the impact of the flames. At the same time, a fire phoenix came out from Shuqzi's body. It let out a screech before it closed its wings and descended toward the ground. The first ancestor charged into the sky. His body started releasing a black glow, then he raised his hand and pointed up. A mysterious 11-leaf plant suddenly appeared on his forehead. One of the leaves fell off and floated toward where he pointed. Most cultivators on the planet were gathered in the country of Suzaku right now, and they all had one goal: enter the Suzaku tomb to retrieve their soul piece. The limit of the Suzaku tomb caused a lot of powerful cultivators to gather here. Although they were mostly soul formation cultivators, there were 16 soul transformation cultivators as well. The 16 of them surrounded and completely blocked the entrance. These 16 were close to the country of Suzaku, so they got here within a few days, but even so, they were too slow and missed the chance to enter. Before they arrived, the number of people that went inside the Suzaku tomb had already reached the limit. The only way to go in right now was to wait for the people inside to die. If one person died, one more person could go in. Among the 16 soul transformation cultivators, only one of them was at the late stage, 3 of them were at the mid stage, and the rest of them were at the early stage. These 16 people were scattered around the entrance of the Suzaku tomb. All of them had their gazes locked onto the entrance. If there was a green flash and a ripple appeared, that meant that someone inside had died and another could go in. With these 16 people waiting, none of the surrounding people dared to get close. They were all waiting for these 16 to go in before fighting over who had the right to enter next. After all, entering this place meant that they would have a chance to retrieve their soul piece. For a chance to save their own life, everyone on planet Suzaku was willing to give it their all. The higher their cultivation level, the more true this was. Wang Lin's figure closed in from the distance. He was wearing a white robe that made him look very calm. Along the way, Zichunan had told him everything about the Suzaku tomb in detail. However, Wang Lin wasn't very confident about this trip. The Suzaku tomb seemed several times more dangerous than he originally expected. Zichunan gifted me a jade that allows me to leave the Suzaku tomb, so I should only have a problem if I don't manage to get to the cultivation planet crystal and retrieve my soul piece from inside it. Although Zichunan has a way for me to not die, not only is it very difficult, but my soul will be missing a piece. This will affect my future cultivation. Wang Lin's figure slowly closed in. The cultivators around Mount Suzaku were either chatting with each other, silently cultivating, or thinking about something else. The moment Wang Lin arrived, some cultivators raised their heads to look at him. Their eyes lit up, then they quickly lowered their heads and made way. There were a lot of cultivators around, but whenever they saw Wang Lin, their expressions would change slightly and they would move out of the way. Wang Lin walked past the cultivators one by one when a very arrogant voice came from the front. Stop! The moment the voice came, the cultivators scattered while Wang Lin continued moving. 1,000 feet away from Mount Suzaku sat 5 cultivators. No cultivator dared to get within 100 feet of these 5. Among the 5 were 3 males and 2 females, and their ages varied greatly. There were 2 young women, 2 young men, and an old man. The 5 of them were all at the peak of the late stage of soul formation. The old man even had a strand of celestial spiritual energy inside his body. He was clearly ready to refine his body and reach the soul transformation stage. However, he didn't have enough celestial jades, so he had only refined a small portion of his body. But even with just this, it made this old man much more powerful than normal soul formation cultivators. The person who shouted was a young man who was sitting next to the old man. This young man was very handsome and was filled with a noble spirit, but if you looked closely at him, you would see hidden intentions in his eyes. Normal people wouldn't be able to see through this, but Wang Lin, although he still looked like a young man due to the dew from the heaven-defying bead, was an old monster who had cultivated for hundreds of years. He was able to see through that person at a glance. As he calmly looked at the young man, he continued to walk forward without even pausing. The young man's eyes were filled with caution as he walked up and shouted, "Fellow cultivator, don't break the rules. My teacher was here first. Once those soul transformation seniors have entered, it will be our turn. Since you came late, you should be in the back." Wang Lin's gaze landed on the old man with the bit of celestial spiritual energy in his body. The old man was wearing a black robe and looked like a skeleton. His eyes gave off a ghostly light that could shake anyone's heart. When he looked toward Wang Lin, his eyes became serious. It was as if he had understood something. "My teacher is the honored brutal Nanming." When the young man saw that Wang Lin's eyes were still calm, he called out his teacher's name. The old man's eyes lit up and he shouted, "Shut up." While the young man was still startled, the old man stood up, respectfully clasped his hands toward Wang Lin, and said, "Brutal Nanming greets Senior. My disciple was rude and offended Senior. I hope you can forgive him." With that, he quickly moved out of the way. The moment those words came out, the people around the old man were startled, but they quickly got up and respectfully got out of the way. Wang Lin nodded toward the old man as he walked past them, and then he came within 1,000 feet of Mount Suzaku. The moment he stepped foot in this area, aside from the one late-stage soul transformation cultivators, 15 gazes gathered on him. "Teacher, what cultivation level is that person at? Could he be a soul transformation old monster?" Disciple wasn't able to detect a trace of celestial spiritual energy in his body though. After Wang Lin left, the extremely arrogant young man sent a voice transmission to the old man. "Of course you weren't able to notice, even I didn't notice until he got close. That person is not only at the late stage of soul transformation, but he's the kind of late-stage soul transform cultivator who is just below ascendant cultivators. He must never be messed with. Only late-stage soul transformation cultivators can reach such a state where celestial energy flows naturally through their body and shows no hint of it." The old man sent a voice transmission back. The moment the 15 gazes landed on Wang Lin, their eyes all lit up. Shortly after, they all withdrew their gazes and began to ponder. They recognized Wang Lin as someone who was on their level and would be part of the first group of people to enter the Suzaku tomb. Wang Lin walked toward the foot of Mount Suzaku. He sat down near the entrance and silently pondered. Among the 16 soul transformation cultivators that were there, the only late-stage soul transformation cultivator was a middle-aged man. He was wearing a purple robe and looked extremely normal. He was sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed. An ancient sword was stabbed into the ground before him. Its golden tassel flowed in the wind. The two bells on the tassel were creating a crisp ringing sound. A small monkey with red eyes was sitting beside him. The monkey would sometimes scratch its head and scream at the entrance. At the moment Wang Lin sat down, the middle-aged man opened his eyes. His eyes were calm as he looked toward Wang Lin and said, "Seng Nyo." The moment he said that, the other 15 soul transformation cultivators were shocked and looked at Wang Lin once more. The name Seng Nyo was very famous on planet Suzaku. Almost every cultivator on the planet knew this name. If his battle with Red Butterfly hadn't caught the attention of the soul transformation cultivators, then the deaths of Li Yuanfeng and the giant demon clan ancestor definitely made them pay attention to him. Wang Lin's expression remained the same. He looked at the middle-aged man and asked, "Have we met?" The middle-aged man faintly smiled. He rubbed the little monkey beside him and answered, "We have not." Wang Lin no longer spoke and closed his eyes to rest. The middle-aged man's eyes lit up and he faintly smiled. "Fellow cultivator Seng Nyo sure has great willpower. You used the celestial refining method to wash away your mortal roots in one go. This makes you much stronger than people who have to wait until the mid or late stages of soul transformation to wash away their mortal roots. If anyone other than us soul transformation cultivators look at fellow cultivator Seng, they will think that you are at the late stage of soul transformation rather than the early stage. There aren't many people who used this method to reach the soul transformation stage. It's no wonder you were able to kill Li Yuanfeng and the giant demon clan ancestor. Wang Lin slightly frowned. He opened his eyes to look at the person and asked, "Is something the matter?" The middle-aged man shook his head and said, "Nope. I'm resting, so please don't disturb me." With that, Wang Lin closed his eyes again. The middle-aged man's eyes became cold, then he applied some pressure on the little monkey. The monkey immediately began to shrill and its eyes started glowing red. Just at this moment, the passage leading into the tomb released a glow and a green ripple spread out. This meant that someone inside the tomb had died and another person could enter. The middle-aged man frowned, then he glanced at Wang Lin before getting up and walking toward the passage. The red light slowly faded from the little monkey's eyes. Although its eyes were still glowing red, the light was several times weaker than before. The middle-aged man thought in his heart, "Wang Lin, you don't recognize the current me, but I recognize you. We haven't met in a long time." The moment he entered the tunnel, he looked back at Wang Lin and revealed a creepy smile. Wang Lin's eyes lit up as watched the middle-aged man enter the tomb. He had never met this person before, but the creepy smile gave Wang Lin a familiar feeling. However, after thinking for a long time, he couldn't remember where he had seen this smile before. After the middle-aged man went in, the three mid-stage soul transformation cultivators stood up and rushed toward the passage. The remaining cultivators' eyes all lit up as they got up and rushed to the passage. A lot of people inside the tomb had died this time, so a lot more people could go in as well. Wang Lin followed them closely and also entered the passage. With a flash of green light, everyone before him disappeared. Then the green light flashed again and one of the soul transformation cultivators was pushed out. He let out an angry roar as he went back to where he was sitting and sat down with his fists clenched. The entrance to the Suzaku tomb was in Mount Suzaku, but the tomb itself was another world. The Suzaku tomb was surrounded by the mysterious power of the cultivation planet crystal. Aside from the entrance at Mount Suzaku, there was no way to break in or out. Aside from being filled with majesty, every generation of Suzaku found that it was filled with mystery. This place wasn't this big when the first Suzaku planted the cultivation planet crystal. However, as time passed, or to be more accurate, as more soul pieces were added, this place grew as if it were alive. It exists within the planet and gradually grows. Now it has its own mountains and rivers, its own sky and earth. Anyone who enters this place for the first time is shocked. Wang Lin appeared somewhere on the edge of the Suzaku tomb. The earth here was scorched and strands of black smoke came out from the ground and drifted into the sky. The sky here was not blue, there was rainbow-colored lightning flashing up there and large spatial rifts that would open up high up in the air. These powerful fluctuations caused the earth below to light up and darken. Wang Lin appeared on the scorched earth where strands of black smoke were rising up from the ground. Shortly after, Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he looked into the distance. Sichu Nan said that the Suzaku tomb isn't large and is split into the inner and outer sections. The center of the inner section is where the first generation Suzaku's tomb is located and that's where the cultivation planet crystal is. But this place is far too different from how Sichu Nan described it. My divine sense can't even cover the outer section, much less find that altar. Wang Lin frowned as he squatted down to touch the scorched earth and felt the heat with his hands. There is fire element within this earth. It doesn't seem to be caused by after effects of a spell or battle, but rather from a natural fire elemental spirit. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he flew away. There is no one within 5,000 kilometers of me. It seems all those who enter are scattered across this tomb. Various thoughts flashed through Wang Lin's mind as he quickly flew into the distance. Just as he left, a pair of green eyes appeared in the ground. The eyes emitted a mysterious light as they looked at Wang Lin and then disappeared back into the ground. Wang Lin was quickly flying toward the end of the scorched earth, but then he suddenly stopped and backed up. Boom! A moment after he backed up, a pillar of blue flame silently appeared where Wang Lin just was. The blue flame was about as thick as a person and it caused the temperature of the area to immediately increase. The heat wave created by this fire quickly pushed away all the smoke coming out from the ground. However, the black smoke was like a ghost. After it was pushed away, it changed directions and went into the blue flame instead of continuing to float up. At this moment, a strange scene unfolded before Wang Lin. All of the black smoke within 5,000 kilometers flew toward the blue flame. A large amount of black smoke gathered within the blue flame, then it came out from the blue flame and took the form of tentacle-like things. As Wang Lin backed up, his eyes became cold. He slapped his bag of holding, took out the celestial sword, and slashed down without any hesitation. A half-moon-shaped sword energy formed and charged toward the blue flame like a fierce storm. At this moment, the black smoke quickly gathered to form a shield to protect the blue flame. Boom! An earth-shattering sound came from the shield as it collapsed. The sword energy shrunk a bit when it broke through the shield and then it landed on the blue flame. A crack as thick as an arm appeared on the blue flame and strands of black smoke came out from the crack. The blue flame moved, causing a large amount of black smoke to gather around it and seal up the crack. As more black smoke gathered, the blue flame began to change until it took the shape of a human. It looked like an 8 or 9-year-old child. Its entire body released black smoke and its eyes were completely dark. It looked at Wang Lin and let out a happy smile. Don't leave, play with me. Only a short period of time had passed since Wang Lin had swung the sword and the flame had taken the form of a child. Wang Lin coldly stared at the child. He was able to tell at a glance that it wasn't some demonic beast but the fire spirit that was creating this heat. Wang Lin coldly said, "Scram." He flew past the flame child and was about to leave. "Don't leave," the child waved its right hand and the earth before Wang Lin began to rumble. The earth suddenly rose, creating a 1,000-foot-tall wall to block Wang Lin. Wang Lin frowned. His body suddenly disappeared and when he reappeared he was several tens of thousands of kilometers away from the scorched earth. The child floated to the edge of the scorched earth and looked at Wang Lin. However, it didn't take a step outside. It was clearly limited to moving within the scorched earth. The child's black eyes stared at Wang Lin. These dark eyes gave off a creepy feeling. It suddenly let out a roar and then it jumped into the air with its arms open. A large amount of black smoke came out from its body. This black smoke was like a group of dragons. After it flew out, it entered the scorched earth. Rumbling sounds came from the 5,000-kilometer area of scorched earth and the scorched earth began to slowly move forward. Wang Lin frowned as he coldly looked at the child. Without a word, he turned around and flew away. When the child saw that Wang Lin was going farther and farther away, it began to panic. It roared several more times as more black smoke came out from its body and dug into the ground, causing the scorched earth to move even faster. However, this couldn't compare to Wang Lin's speed. Seeing Wang Lin's figure slowly disappearing in the distance, the child's face was filled with hostility. It let out a big roar into the sky, then its body collapsed into a ball of blue flame and went back into the scorched earth. The scorched earth began to tremble violently and then suddenly it started expanding again. It wasn't moving this time, it seemed to be stretching itself into a line that moved forward at a frightening pace. As Wang Lin flew, his eyes became cold. He turned around and saw a line chasing after him like a dragon. At the front of this line there was a ball of blue flames with the child's strange eyes. "You courting death?" Wang Lin didn't use celestial spiritual energy in that swing earlier. He took out a celestial jade and absorbed all of the celestial spiritual energy inside it. Then his eyes released a golden glow as he slowly raised the celestial sword. The celestial sword released a golden glow as it was filled with celestial spiritual energy and then Wang Lin swung down. One swing of the celestial sword was like divine punishment. Its power was several times stronger than before. The sword energy moved faster than the speed of sound and quickly landed on the scorched earth that was charging towards him. Boom! The earth trembled and at the moment the sword energy landed, cracks appeared on the scorched earth. The cracks quickly spread and in the blink of an eye, the scorched earth was covered in cracks. Wang Lin whispered, "Shatter!" With a bang, the line of scorched earth was shattered and dirt flew out in all directions. At this moment, a mysterious power came out from every speck of this scorched earth. Wang Lin's expression was strange as he reached out and caught a few specks of dirt. After checking them out, he turned around and quickly left. Shortly after he left, those specks began to gather once more. It didn't take long for the scorched earth to reform itself. The child looked toward where Wang Lin had gone and revealed a look of deep frustration. "Don't leave." The child suddenly turned around and saw a ray of light flying toward it. Joy suddenly filled the child's eyes. After leaving the scorched earth far behind him, Wang Lin's expression was very gloomy. He was now certain that the child made of flames was not a fire spirit. If it were a fire spirit, then that sword slash should have destroyed it, but that strike that contained celestial spiritual energy only made it collapse and did not inflict any injuries. Even the scorched earth wasn't damaged at all. The blow from the celestial sword only made it fall apart. The scorched earth was originally just grains of dirt fused together anyways. This place is very strange. As soon as that scorched earth shattered, I felt like each of those grains was a soul. Could those have been the soul pieces? Wang Lin suddenly stopped and looked back behind him. This video will end here.